The Shaman's Curse. The mountain road stretched on for endless miles, a winding serpentine of cracked pavement and jutting rocks. Dense forest loomed on either side, branches tangled overhead to block out the night sky. Inside the rented SUV, Jinhai leaned over the steering wheel, squinting into the inky blackness beyond the headlights' reach. "We're lost," his wife Suji said softly from the passenger seat. "Let's just find somewhere to stop for the night." Jinhai shook his head stubbornly. "The GPS said the pension is close. We must be almost there." But uncertainty tinged his voice. When Suji had suggested a weekend trip to visit a remote mountain temple, Jinhai had no idea the journey would be this treacherous. Part of him wanted nothing more than to turn around, but they'd already come so far. Just as he was about to suggest pulling over, Jinhai spotted a faint glow through the trees up ahead. Hope leaping, he accelerated toward it. They rounded the bend and sighed in unison. A weathered building squatted by the roadside, a battered sign reading "Mountain" in above the door. Jinhai parked the SUV and turned to Suji with a tired smile. "Looks like we can rest here." The elderly proprietress welcomed them inside the musty inn and showed them to a cramped room. After settling in, they walked down the creaking hallway toward the faint sound of voices. Other stranded travelers sat eating dinner in the inn's small cafe. Jinhai and Suji took a table. The journey had left them ravenous. Soon steaming bowls of doenjang jjigae stew and rice were placed before them. As they ate, Jinhai overheard guests at the next table speaking in hushed tones. "We barely escaped with our lives. That demon nearly clawed my husband's eyes out." Jinhai shifted to glimpse the speaker, an older woman in a lavender hanbok dress. Her male companion, presumably her husband, had thick bandages wrapped around his head, covering his eyes. The man grumbled, "I told you we shouldn't take that forest path, but did you listen? How was I to know a ghost lurked there?" The woman hissed back. Then she seemed to notice Jinhai watching. Her face flushed. Giving Jinhai an apologetic look, she said, "Forgive our rudeness. We were just recalling a strange incident that occurred up the mountain." Her husband harumphed. "Strange incident? More like a bloody nightmare." He pointed to his bandaged face. "We're just lucky to be alive." Morbid curiosity prompted Jinhai to ask, "What happened to you out there?" The woman leaned closer and whispered dramatically, "We were attacked by a most vicious spirit." She appeared as a freakishly tall woman with hair like a dark veil over her face. Her fingers were more like claws. She let out the most blood-curdling shriek and chased us through the woods. She shuddered at the memory while her husband muttered a prayer under his breath. "We've heard mentions of a ghost haunting these parts," the woman continued. "She is called Daebaknyeo, and is said to be the vengeful spirit of a shaman who failed her initiation into their mysterious arts. Now she attacks any hapless travelers crossing her path." Jinhai felt Suji stiffen next to him. Unease skittered down his own spine at the chilling tale. But these were just old rural superstitions, not anything to take seriously. "Right?" He forced a laugh. "What a story to frighten guests. We appreciate the warning, but don't worry, we don't scare easily." The couple shot him a look that implied they knew better. Later in their cramped room, Jinhai found sleep elusive. The wind whistling through gaps in the walls didn't help matters. Nor did Suji tossing fitfully beside him. When she suddenly sat bolt upright, he started. "What's wrong?" "I heard something outside. Like a woman screaming," she whispered. Jinhai strained to listen but heard only the wind. "Just the storm playing tricks on your mind. Go back to sleep." Eventually they both slipped into restless slumber. Sometime later, a thunderous crash shocked Jinhai awake. Heart racing, he stared into the darkness of their room. Had a branch fallen on the roof? Suji clutched his arm, gasping look. She pointed a trembling finger toward the window. Jinhai looked and immediately recoiled. Silhouetted against the glass was the shadowy figure of an impossibly tall woman. She appeared to be clawing at the window pane, her veil of dark hair whipping wildly in the storm winds. Terror seized him. The tale of Daebaknyeo rushed back in a chilling rush. Was this the vengeful spirit the old couple had warned about? As Jinhai froze like a deer in headlights, the window burst open. An unearthly shriek pierced the night. The spectral woman surged forward, hair swirling around her indistinct face. Jinhai lurched from the bed, pulling Suji with him. They scrambled through the darkness toward the door as another shriek rang out behind them. Jinhai fumbled to unlock it with trembling hands as icy fingers grazed the back of his neck. Finally the door crashed open. They fled down the hallway, the furious spirit close on their heels. Up ahead, other guests were roused by the commotion, peering fearfully from their rooms. Jinhai darted through them, shouting "Run!" He and Suji made it to the stairwell, taking the steps two at a time as shrieks echoed off the walls. The other guests poured out behind them, screams and questions volleying through the darkness. They burst out the inn's front doors into the raging storm outside. Wind lashed Jinhai's face and tugged at his clothes like clammy hands trying to hold him back. Suji cried out and went sprawling onto the muddy ground. Jinhai whirled to find the spectral woman looming over her, claw-like hands grasping air as Suji scrambled backward. With a yell, Jinhai charged and threw himself bodily at the ghostly form. Icy cold enveloped him and his hands met only swirling mist. He crashed down inches from Suji. The ghost let out an ear-piercing wail of frustration that seemed to shake the very air. Then she dissolved into the storm stillness. Jinhai lay gasping for breath, barely able to believe they'd survived the attack. He helped Suji up with still shaking limbs. Nearby, the other guests murmured in a mix of relief and disbelief. As Jinhai's pulse gradually slowed, questions arose in his mind. Why had this vengeful spirit targeted them? Was there truth to the legend of her being an angry failed shaman? Most of all, he wondered if they had truly escaped her wrath for good. Her chilling cries still echoed through his mind. What if she returned again to finish what she'd started? The answers remained as murky as the spirit's origins. But Jinhai knew one thing with sudden clarity: this night they would not spend another moment on the mountain. Taking Suji's hand, he returned to their SUV and started the engine. It rumbled to life, headlights cutting a swath through the darkness ahead. No matter what direction they drove, away from here was all that mattered. Jinhai curved back onto the twisting mountain road without looking back, hoping distance would dim the disturbing memory of near death at a spirit's hands. But he knew deep down, the shadowy face of the demon Daebaknyeo would haunt his nightmares forevermore.